episode 26, and this week we look at the story behind Cocoloco. Hey, and welcome to another episode of the Learn Cardano podcast, the podcast where we break down all the ins and outs of Cardano so that you can sell shiny JPEGs for millions of dollars, even higher than what Adobe stock photos sell for or their stock photography. Yep, that's right. I'm your host, Peter Buey, and this week I have Jack Duboc join me from the it's the LocoNutz community. He's one of the moderators on the community there on Discord, and he is joining me on this episode to talk about the Cocoloco drop and what happened and where this community is evolving to. Yeah, that's right. It's an NFT community that's evolving into what is now termed as a decentralized NFT. It's quite an interesting concept. I don't think there are any other ones out there, and it seems to be growing quite organically with a very passionate community behind it that have taken over the Cocoloco project. So let's get into the news for this week. All right, so first up, we have the Cardano Summit that is coming up on this weekend on the 25th and the 26th of September. Here in Australia, we have two locations that will be holding mini in-person summits. That's in Brisbane here, where I'll be hosting that one. And then another one where Phil will be hosting a meetup in Perth. And that will be running on the Sunday as opposed to the Saturday. So if you're in Australia and you can make it to one of these locations, it'd be absolutely fantastic to catch up with you. We can meet at the pre or post events in person, or at the actual summit event as well on the Saturday, although I believe that is now completely booked out. So please check out the links to it on the show notes and check out the meetup page as well. You should be able to get to that before the actual weekend. Fingers crossed. Now, if you're not in Australia, there are other options in regards to going to one of these in-person meetup summit events. You can check that out on meetup.com. There's a link to it in the show notes. Wherever you are in the world, there'll be something close to your location to possibly get to. Now, more importantly, the virtual summit that has been put together, which is over 2 days worth of content, continuous content over the weekend, the Input Output Global have put together a virtual world for this. A virtual world that rides on the back of a giant turtle. Yeah, that's right. So you'll be able to log into this virtual space, play as a little character exploring the world. I maybe even interact with other participants and other people watching the summit. But you'll be able to go through the world, collect collectible NFTs that are being created specifically for this event, and then also explore all the presentations, all the speakers, all the news, all the updates that are happening in regards to what's happening in the Cardano ecosystem in general. And this is all embedded into this virtual world. It's absolutely amazing. If you haven't seen this yet, please check out the show notes at cardano.com.au/EP026. I've got an embedded tweet there that has this video of this virtual world, a little preview of it, and it is absolutely stunning. It's really cool. They're blending that whole metaverse, that whole virtual reality world with the in-person event. It's so cool. It's really cool. It's really amazing. I had never seen anything like this before in terms of a virtual summit. So they're really, really taking it to the next level. Wow. Okay. It's definitely a great way to celebrate the coming of smart contracts on the Cardano blockchain. Now, in other news, we are seeing markets absolutely tank at the moment. It looks like everything is dropping, not just the cryptocurrency markets, but also the stock exchanges all around the world. Now, this may have something to do with the Evergrande issues and their fallout and their massive amounts of debt which they're going through at the moment. So Evergrande is a property development company in China. And from the sounds of it, it seems like they're in deep financial stress where they can't pay back their debts at the moment. So this is being looked at as China's Lehman Brothers episode. It's their equivalent of the property crash, the big GFC that happened in 2008. And we're potentially looking at a big fallout within the property market in China from this particular company. Now, from what I understand, the exposure to foreign investment in China in this company isn't as large as what the Lehman Brothers had with their investments globally, but I believe the exposure is still around 20%. So some global institutes will be affected by this fallout, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. At the moment, we're seeing the fallout effects of that. We're seeing oil prices drop. We're seeing the mining resources and minerals here in Australia drop as well. So all these companies are directly affected by Evergrande and their potential collapse. And everyone seems to be selling out just before that may happen. I don't know if this will actually happen. It's purely speculation at the moment from my point of view. But watching the markets fall, watching the media and watching the press talk about this, it does seem that a lot of people, a lot of investors, a lot of hedge funds, a lot of the big players are taking the safe route and selling out early before absolute chaos happens. And this is probably a good explanation why we're seeing all markets around the world, not just the cryptocurrency markets, plummet at the moment. The largest cryptocurrency exchange, well, I think it's the largest cryptocurrency exchange, Coinbase, has abandoned its plans for its lend product. So they were about to release a product where they could lend out USDC, their stable coin, at high interest rate returns. And this was first announced in June of this year. And they've put all of that on hold because of legal action from the SEC, the security commissions in the United States. Now, Coinbase has decided to pull that because of the mounting tension between the exchange and the SEC. Earlier this month, we saw the Coinbase CEO, Brian Armstrong, post a lengthy Twitter thread decrypting the SEC's sketchy behavior, while the SEC chair, Gary Gensler, took aim at the exchange for listing dozens of tokens that might be securities. Very interesting developments right there, and hopefully they manage to get around this and do some corrections with what's happening there. I know Coinbase is one of the most regulated exchanges on anywhere, especially in the United States. It's by far the most regulated exchange. They've always gone down that path of high-level regulation. All right, this next news story is a good one for you. Solana. You may have heard of this other blockchain that had a little bit of an issue. And when I say little, I mean huge. It was and I shouldn't be laughing. It was a huge issue in that the entire blockchain went offline for 17 hours on the 14th of September. Now, in that tweet, it mentioned that the network was being hit with over 400,000 transactions per second. That is huge. That's a huge amount of transactions. But what was causing that? So they pinned it down to a DeFi protocol, a decentralized exchange that was doing an IDO on their network. So this was the Radium DeFi protocol, and they were doing a token launch or IDO for the Grape protocol. And it's a widely used Solana toolset for DeFi developers. Now, the network was being completely overwhelmed by the bots that were trying to get in, muscle their way in to that token offering and essentially grab up all the tokens. So it would come in, it would buy up all the tokens, and that was what was completely taking over the network. Now, what happened here was that the resources on all of the node operators in their network were completely exhausted. So the amount of memory that was needed ran out, and all of these nodes essentially fell over. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them fell over. And at that point in time, blocks weren't being made. So all of these nodes weren't making blocks, and then the blockchain itself became invalid because there wasn't that consensus that was needed across the entire network. Now, in this latest post-mortem report that the Solana Foundation put out, it pretty much matched up with what happened and what everyone saw on Twitter. But they changed some of the wording. They said that this was a type of DDoS attack, a distributed denial of service attack on their network. And it wasn't anything to do with that IDO that was happening on the Radium platform for that great protocol token. So it had nothing to do with that. But, how do you do a DDoS attack on a distributed, decentralized blockchain? Yeah, anyway, okay, well, someone managed to. I guess 51% attacks do happen. Or this one here just took out, majority of the nodes on the network and took out the entire blockchain. I guess that's how you do it. In the end, the node validators and network validators opted to do the update that the developers put out, restart the network, creating a hard fork from the last confirmed block. And it took about 14 hours for this to be done per Solana's report. Now, I'll put a link to that in the show notes so that you can read more about it and understand exactly what happened with this particular outage on the Solana blockchain. Okay, so that's it for the news items for this week. Now, let's get into this interview with Jack from the LocoNutz community. Yep, LocoNutz community. He'll be talking about how this community has evolved from the Cocoloco project, what happened there, and why the community got so angry and so upset with this particular project and essentially forked the project and moved it over to their new one called LocoNutz, and how that has now evolved into a decentralized NFT. Very interesting concept. I think it's probably the first of its kind, but we'll find out. We'll see. All right, let's get into this interview. I have Jack de Bock joining me from the LocoNutz community, or is it Cocoloco?
LocoNutz.
LocoNutz. Joining me from the LocoNutz community. He's one of the moderators of the Discord and probably one of the more vocal people within the community, and I guess leading the community now in its new direction. So this is quite interesting. Now, I've heard about this whole Cocoloco drop, and I was, just getting into the NFT space, and I was getting really excited about this, but something happened here. I don't know what happened. Jack's here to talk all about it and explain exactly what happened and where this community is right now. Jack, first off, thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And let's get into a little bit about your crypto background. Let's just understand how you and when you got into crypto and when you discovered Cardano, and then specifically see NFTs.
Well, it was I've only just started actually investing in crypto this year, so maybe at the start of the year. I've always known about cryptocurrencies, but I've never had the money to play about with it. I've always been told that unless you have that spare money, you've got the money to lose, just stay away from it. So that's what I did. I kept my eye on it, obviously, but I never actually invested. I've started a new job recently, maybe in the past year or so. It allowed me to have more funds to be able to play with. And then my manager at work actually came in one day and was talking about Cardano, and I was like, okay, this is very interesting. I bought it when it was quite low. I bought probably around about 300 Great British pounds, and that was as much as I really spent. And then fast forward maybe to last month or so, that's when I got into the CNFT space. I've done a lot of research on NFTs. Most of it was Ethereum. Not having that kind of money to be playing with Ethereum, I sort of looked at Cardano NFTs, and from there, the rest is history.
Yeah, all those gas fees that you have to pay, and the prices that things go for on the Ethereum blockchain are absolute crazy.
It is insane.
Yeah, but I guess a lot of the early adopters that accumulated a lot of ETH and are pretty happy with that now. So yeah,
loving life.
Yeah, exactly. So why did you get interested in NFTs?
I could say because I like the art, but it would be a complete lie. It's the potential for the growth and the money, and just there was a lot of hype around it. So obviously, but instinctual, you're going to research into it, and you see, wow, this is going to be big. This could blow up. So obviously, when it come to Cocoloco, it was one of the first ones that I actually researched and looked into, and I got in pretty much before most of the Dan followers, like from Crypto Capital Venture, got in. So I didn't actually know it was backed by him to begin with.
Yeah.
And I saw the art. It looked funky. It looked funny. And I was like, you know what? Let's just take a risk. Let's take a gamble with the limited amount of resources I have. And let's just go in that direction.
Okay. All right. So let's get into this backstory of Cocoloco. what on earth happened? Like I said, I know very little. I try to piece things together, but I literally woke up one morning to what I could describe as a shitstorm, and Twitter was essentially raging about what was happening with this drop. But fill us in. I've got my popcorn ready here, little cup of popcorn. It's 5 a.m. But fill me in. Tell me what on earth happened.
Well, on the 26th of August, Cocoloco, the original project, had its initial mint and its initial drop. There was meant to be 5,000 minted, and the plan was obviously to mint all of them on that day, get them out, and then from there, do whatever the team decided to do. It didn't go as planned. The drop was horrendous. Only, like I'd say, probably about 1,000 people managed to get theirs, and they postponed and gave pretty much little information of what was going on. And then eventually, a couple of days later, I think on the 28th of August, they did the final section of the drop, and then all the Cocolocos got minted. So it sort of set the tone. It was probably one of the first CNFT drops that went horribly wrong. Obviously, it's more common now. You see a lot of Cardano tokens, actually, their websites crashing or the traffic's too much because it's getting bigger. But it was probably one of the first ones that set the pace for how big the Cardano NFT scene could actually get. Things were looking promising. They were looking very promising. Dan, obviously, the guy who, this big YouTuber of 300,000 subscribers, he's back in this project where everyone's thinking, okay, this could be the next big thing, the next Space Buds. And probably about a week goes by. There's no information, no news. I'm part of the mod team, and we're not getting any information either. All the mods are in the same boat as the people who have bought the Cocolocos, but essentially we just had the power to kick and ban people. So it was very interesting to see what direction was going, but we still had blind loyalty to Dan. We wanted to make sure that he knew that we had our faith in him, that he could basically just take the time that he needed to get the project sorted, get whatever he needed, and we would still support him and help moderate the Discord and do whatever we could. Things weren't too bad. It was just obviously the lack of information. People started to get a bit restless because there was nothing. Nobody had heard anything. And then from there, that's when the big news hit. Out of nowhere, the Cocoloco team, who ran the initial project, they sort of just said it was an experiment, and they'd given everyone refunds, and that was the only series that would be dropped. It was a collectible. From there, it just went downhill very, very quickly.
Right. Because
yeah.
I heard some people were paying 20,000 ADA for some of these pieces, and
absolutely, it was, as I said, it was looking promising. And I think on the first day, I remember one of the mods actually managed to get one of the very rare ones, and he sold it for 20,000 ADA. And from that point, that's when I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the one. So, it sort of set the tone. Those early sort of sales, it set the tone for how big it could be if it had been developed properly.
Yeah. So what do you think happened? It was just Dan and the team just put something out. They literally were just experimenting to see how and what would happen, and then it got too much.
Well, the way I see it, it could be one of three things. The first one is they've released it with the intention of it just being a collectible, one drop, and just that's it. But the reason I don't think that's likely, but bear in mind, everything I'm saying right now is speculation. There's no actual facts. It's just conspiracies that even the community have come up with. In some of, obviously, on the website, there was wordings that suggested there would be more drops, like ecosystems, and he planned to take it further. It was so the first one, obviously, is he could have just released it as a single drop, which he claimed to have done. A second one could have been he released it with the intention of taking it further, but realized that it was a bit more overwhelming than he had first anticipated, and everyone was very demanding, and that is the case. You need to these communities are ruthless, and yeah, so he probably wasn't expecting it and couldn't take the pressure, and maybe just decided to take a step back and was like, yeah, no, it's it. That's just the one I'm doing. And then the third one, which again is just speculation, and what some other community members said, it could be legal issues, behind the scenes stuff that nobody actually knows. So I think there's no guaranteed answer we're ever going to get, but it's definitely up for debate.
Right, interesting. And in terms of the crashes and stuff, I'm assuming it's just didn't plan for such a rush of sales, and the systems or whatnot couldn't handle the traffic. That's my assumption. But what do you think happened with the drops?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I definitely don't think he predicted the amount of traffic that was there. Originally, I think the first drop got attacked by bots, so they all got reserved literally instantly. So it got attacked. That had an attack. The next one, I think, again, it had a couple issues here and there, but it still managed to get through some people. But again, I just think it's the sheer traffic that they were not expecting, and a lot of the projects aren't expecting it in these CNFT drops, and they think, oh, I've only got like say 1,000 followers on Twitter, 1,000 members in Discord, but the hype around NFTs, you're going to get a lot more members than just those 1,000 at the drop because they hear about it.
And then especially when the bots all come into play as well and try and reserve and buy up everything in the first few seconds, it puts a massive demand on the servers.
Oh, 100%. And it's if you can get past that stage, like in terms of putting security measures in place, there's always the risk of the back end side of things failing, like the nodes being overloaded or however it's done. So there's a lot of risks involved. I've only really recently seen maybe like one or two drops that have gone quite smoothly. The rest are just still there. There's always issues. So to me, that just shows signs of how big the Cardano NFT space is at the moment.
All right, brilliant. So what's happening now? So has there been formal announcements from Dan and the team about what happened or what they're doing with the project there? And I know basically the community's just stepped in and like fill us in with what's happening now.
This is where you're going to want to grab your popcorn for sure.
Yeah, right.
So once the old team made that initial announcement about how it was all an experiment, and it was just a one drop, etc. I remember being in that chat at the time because, again, he had not updated us on this. The mods we were dropped in it just as much. And me and one of the other mods, we were just there like, we saw the chat explode, messages after message after message. And I was like, okay, so what do we do? And for that moment, I was like, do you know what? Let's make a new Discord. Let's get everyone over there. So that's what we did. And we managed to get, within the first couple of hours, 500 people from the old Discord into the new one. And we, from that moment, worked for like hours just to figure out what we could do. And the first thing that we knew we had to do was get the policy ID revoked from Dan, so he couldn't make any changes, or we couldn't essentially mint any more. And we pushed for that. We got everyone in the community to work together, tweet at Dan, tweet at the NFT maker creator, and he was very helpful actually, Patrick.
Yeah.
He spoke to Dan personally and was like, yeah, we need to get this sorted. And that's it. And within maybe 5 hours or so, we managed to get the policy ID revoked from Dan. And that's when it became essentially the community's token.
Wow. That is amazing. So
yeah, it was a big achievement at the time, and it showed the sheer strength of the community. And I think this is one of the best communities in the CNFT space because of things like this. It just shows the power that they have.
I do find with almost all of these drops, these NFT projects, if you don't have that community behind it, there's just nothing really. You could release a whole bunch of NFTs and, it might sell, it might not, but it's that community that drives the, the eagerness for the project and the desire for the NFT itself. So it's one thing, the art, the NFT, the little pictures that you generate, but the other thing is massive communities that you can build behind this.
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't be in the position I am or any of the other mods if we didn't have that community support. We could have told everyone to come over and they would have just been like, nah, and that's it. Then what we've done, we wouldn't have been able to do anything. So it's just having that support. And I mean, on a daily basis, we get messages saying, Thank you for taking this on, and the support. It shows that that their support to us as well is what drives us to want to go forwards. Because at the moment, everyone on the team has done it for free. We've not got any financial gain from it. I'm actually out of pocket, to be honest with you. Some of the artwork I've had to pay for. Yeah. But it's knowing that community, we have their support. It's what keeps us going. So it's definitely a big, big factor.
Yeah, so this is basically the part of the story where I started to drop in on the community. So I heard that Patrick had revoked the policy ID, and I was like, all right, okay, what's going on here? So then I had a little peek and I thought, okay, the community's still there. It's still growing. It's taken over by the community. And, the Cocoloco price is slowly driving up on cnft.io. And it's looking good. But what's happened now?
Well, so after we've obviously got the policy ID revoked, we are working on other things to try and, get the community back to its former glory as such. So we've spoken to Dan. We still had communication with Dan. Behind the scenes, we did. I did personally anyway. Some of the other mods did try reaching out, but I think Dan trusted me a little bit more because of the things that we spoke about. But I was asking for the Twitter. That was the main point. We wanted the old Twitter account. So it had 10,000 followers. That would have been huge for the community. We would have been able to market out to a lot more people if we had that account. So we tried for days to try and get that account, but essentially it come to nothing because Dan claimed that obviously he's created Cocoloco as an LLC, which then brings in legal issues, and he can't just hand over the keys to the Twitter account and the IP and the website, etc. So we sort of, at that moment, the mods realized this was going to be an issue. There was always going to be that level of control. So we planned two routes. The first route was to go down the Cocoloco path and expand on the Cocoloco name and the brand. And the second one was to have a rebrand just in case things was to go wrong and we couldn't go down that Cocoloco route. So yeah, after we've spoken to Dan, he said about the Twitter account, we can't have that. We've planned for these two paths, and then I've pitched to Dan an idea to make a new series for Cocolocos. It would have been an exclusive drop for the current community, 500 exclusive Halloween Cocolocos. The artwork for that was incredible. Our artist, we hired someone who was a family member of one of the mods, so keeping it within the community. And his artwork was spectacular for these Cocolocos. And I really was upset when I found out that we weren't going to be releasing them because they were just incredible. But it's one of those things where we pitched it to Dan. He said, in his own words, he does not authorize another drop for Cocoloco. It was meant for the one drop. And that hurt a little bit because he, in one of his YouTube videos, publicly stated that this project is in the community's hands. And that's what he wanted. So in public, he's the hero. He's given us this project. But in private, he's saying, no, you can't do this. And it's not essentially the community's project.
Interesting. Okay. So now what? You're splitting the project, like you're changing the name. Is that what you have to do?
It was one of the things that we had to discuss amongst the team. And as much as this token is one of the first decentralized projects in the CNFT space, so the community had a say on pretty much everything up until this point where we couldn't release this kind of information unless we wanted to obviously cause mass hysteria, mass panic. So we had to plan. We had to come to the community with a plan and said, this is what we're going to do. We hope you can still follow us and we know that we have your best interests at heart. So we've come up with a plan to rebrand. We was using the Cocoloco backstory, and from that we was going to then branch off into LocoNutz, which is essentially the backstory is everything's all calm and peaceful in the land of Cocoloco. A fire breaks out. We didn't specify how the fire broke out. That was something that can be decided later on. Everything's it's chaos, it's mayhem. Palm trees are burning left, right, and center. And from the ashes rise these LocoNutz who have to rebuild a community and society. So it was essentially a way to symbolize the journey that we've been through, while also being able to brand off into another project, essentially, that allows for us to have creative freedom, go ahead with whatever we need to do.
Mate, that's awesome. It totally makes sense. And I'm looking at the little icon on the Discord thing, trying to work out what it is. And now I totally get it. It's a coconut on fire.
Yes.
All right.
It's
rising from the ashes. All right.
Yes. And it's also a tribute to the community. Whilst obviously with the Cocolocos, they had different colored coconuts on the palm trees. And one member in particular, Crypto Attract, he created the Red Nut Gang, and they've sort of taken over the community. The Red Nut Gang is the superior gang, as they say. So it's the little things like that we wanted to bring to the community and tailor it to the community, because again, this is still the community's project. They all have a say in everything going forward. So at the moment, the next step for us is to come up with a way how to reward Cocoloco holders, because a lot of people are going to lose out in the secondary market now that we can't continue with Cocoloco as such. The prices are dropping, but it was inevitable. So now it's our job to make sure that we give them some utility, and also to make sure that the current Cocoloco holders are rewarded and they're not just left in the dark.
So have you worked out those details yet?
We have a meeting. We have a meeting tonight, the team, to discuss a few plans. We've taken all the community's ideas. I was literally at work today, actually, my full-time job, looking through the brainstorm channel, every single idea, screenshotting, and then we're going to present it later on and come up with a formal plan. But I think the idea is we want to essentially burn one Cocoloco and one LocoNut, and it gives you a special new token. So the idea is it makes it so the Cocolocos are desirable, because you need a Cocoloco to get this new token. You also need one of the new LocoNutz. And that will raise, obviously, the Cocoloco price, as well as making them more scarce if we put them into a burnt wallet. So there's less of them. It's not cemented in place at the end of the day. It's up for discussion, and we're going to take all these plans to the community for them to decide how they want to do it, and however they decide is what we're going to try our best to do, because obviously we do need to be considerate of the fact that we have a dev team and an artist that has to be able to do this. So it has to obviously be realistic and make sure that we don't go out of pocket, because again, everything's done through the community. But it's all up for discussion, and I think the coming few days is going to be interesting to see what direction we can actually go in with this.
Okay. So now it's purely turned into a community-driven NFT, which I think is probably the really cool thing and the best thing that's probably come out of all this, that a community is driving an NFT project, not just the artist or the person that's doing the drop initially. So what do you call this? Is it a distributed NFT community, a DNFTC?
It's a decentralized NFT or CNFT. That's how the people like to describe it. It's very, very interesting to be a part of, especially being the guy that gets to look at the people's ideas, take them in, and then draft up a final or write up a final pitch to then the whole community votes. It's special. It's nice to be a part of, because there's not a dictator. You have a say, and everyone in the community has their voice. And that was the problem with the old project is Dan was quiet. He didn't give anybody a voice. He wasn't transparent, and we've made it our top priority to do the opposite. We've made it so everybody has their say. We are listening, and we are 100% transparent in every way that we can.
So you probably haven't worked out all these little nuances, but how are you going to do the voting? It sounds like you're collecting the ideas and stuff from the community via the Discord. So that's sounds like it's solid. But how are you going to collate these ideas and let the community vote on it?
So before we had to come up with a plan to rebrand, we had plenty of votes through Discord itself. So we have a voting channel. We'll pitch the idea, and then they can either react with a thumbs up or a thumbs down, or whichever reaction that we choose for that specific vote. And it seems to work because we've had plenty of votes where everyone said yes, but we've also had ideas pitched to them that they've gone, no, we don't like that. And it's a majority vote, and you'll see the difference, and they're not afraid to say their opinion. So if someone doesn't like it, they will say no. It's not just a vote's here. Yeah, let's just say yes. They do have their opinion.
I'm guessing people are debating this on other channels as well, saying and
yes.
fighting. Yeah, okay.
Absolutely. There's a lot of heated discussions, let's just say that.
All right. That's really, really cool. Okay, so you've got this distributed, decentralized NFT community. You've got voting systems in place. You've got ideas coming out from left, right, and center, and artists and devs to work on the project. When's the next thing going to happen? Do you know what the next thing might be? When a new release might happen?
So the idea is we need to gauge where the community are at, how they want to do this next drop. We did have a plan in place for just a normal drop for our new, project, LocoNutz. The plan was just going to do a 5K mint like the Cocoloco. But after having a Q&A session yesterday, where there was a lot of people that voiced their opinion on how they didn't like the idea of just moving on and just doing a new drop and that's it, because there's a lot of people that did spend a lot of money in the secondary market on Cocoloco, so they feel a bit hard done by, a bit left out. So there was a lot of people that wanted to still implement that. So we had to sort of think our strategy, and obviously now we've got these plans. We're going to pitch it to the community, and the idea is if it's what they wanted and it was possible to do, we would definitely. The plan is to aim to release our first drop next month, so end of October, roughly. And then I think the second part of that, if obviously they go through, it's all dependent on what plan that they choose and what route they want to go down. But I know for a fact, I think the first drop is definitely going to be in October, and that's what we're aiming for.
All right. Okay. You're still going with this Halloween theme?
Unfortunately not. It would have been a nice, cool idea, but it's I think for the first drop we need to get our foot in and get our bearing, and then there's potential for exclusive drops.
Okay. Now, in terms of the decentralized community, decentralized NFT community, is this the first one that you know of? Like, I haven't heard of this happening ever before.
It is I believe one of the first decentralized NFTs ever. I can't quote that officially, but from what I've seen, I haven't seen any others. There might be other communities that have a vote, I suppose, but nothing to this extent and how we're doing it. Someone that there's no dictatorship.
This is just amazing. It's really cool. Is there anything else that we need to know?
Not off the top of my head. I think we pretty much covered the whole story, where we plan to go in the future, and just the general vibe of the community. It's a great place to be. There's a couple of things we need to iron out currently due to this massive announcement that only happened yesterday. So the vibe in the community isn't as great as it normally is, but there's still so many people with loud voices that are voicing how much they still support the project and how we can build this into something better and bigger.
Is Dan still coming along for the ride? Any part of this community, or is it? What's the general vibe between the community and Dan? Like, has that gone sour?
Well, essentially, to begin with, once the first announcement was made by the old team, they wanted to. Obviously, there was an experiment, this and that. The community were upset, but all the mod team made it so there was no Dan slander. We couldn't slander Dan. We wouldn't let them, because at the end of the day, he had still given us this project. He had still revoked the policy. He'd still cooperated with us in some sense. But since he's gone obviously silent and decided that he doesn't want us to carry on, and he's lied to us essentially, the community are free to have their own opinion. We don't stop that now. We don't slander him. I'm never ever going to tell anybody to go and hate Dan, but it's transparent enough to see that we don't have to actually say anything for them to see how it is with Dan. And the community when it comes to that. And there's a lot of people that do think he's just gone about it the wrong way. And there's a lot of unhappy people because obviously when it comes to money, there's always going to be unhappy people.
Yeah.
And so the general vibe isn't the greatest, but I mean, there's still a couple of people that here and there saying at the end of the day, you just got to move on. And that's the general vibe of the whole mod team as well. We're like, let's just move on. We can get past this. He's in the past. That's part of our history and it always will be part of our history, but let's not dwell on it. Let's build something bigger.
It's good to see that the community overall is generally civil about the entire process. And I think that's a reflection of the Cardano community too, really. Absolutely.
Yeah,
which is brilliant. Okay. So how can people find out more about the LocoNutz project?
We're mainly posting on our Twitter, which is at LocoNutz NFT. We also do have a Discord, which is linked in the Twitter, as well as we've got a website, LocoNutz.io. It's currently under construction. Still a couple of bits that we need to add on to it, but that should be up very soon.
All right. Absolutely brilliant. Okay. Jack, thank you for filling me in and telling me everything I needed to know about this project, evolving from the Cocoloco to the LocoNutz and this new and amazing decentralized NFT community that's spawned from the ashes, I guess.
No, I definitely appreciate your time and the platform you've given me to speak. It's a lot more refreshing than just typing behind a keyboard trying to tell people how it is. It's definitely better if we give a voice to that name, you know?
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of these brand new NFTs that you're going to release out to the community. And I'll make sure I'll give it a big shout out and a little recap when we do our regular NFT showcase episodes.
Perfect. Sounds amazing. I appreciate that greatly.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for all this.
No worries. Thank you.
So I'm really interested to see where all of this goes. This decentralized NFT and the decentralized community behind the NFT controlling the future of the project. I've never seen or heard anything like this before, so I'm pretty interested to see where it goes, and I'll be keeping my tabs on the LocoNutz community to see what actually happens. I think it's quite revolutionary. I'd have to say, I don't think I've seen anything else like this anywhere. I've done Googling, I've tried to work it out, but I haven't seen anything else. The closest I've seen is an NFT DAO, where the DAO is used to control what happens with the NFT, but even those are very, very new, and I haven't seen actual activity from those projects. This is essentially something very similar to that, but I think even more organic and even more raw. And I think it's got a lot more legs than what these other DAO projects may have, or a decentralized autonomous organization. That's what DAO stands for. So make sure you check out the Discord community and find out exactly what's happening there. Check out all the posts that they have, all the Cocoloco that are for sale, and soon they're LocoNutz as well. Those red nut palms are quite desirable. I will try and get one myself. Now let's get into a couple of reviews for this week. I have a few more here. This one here, it is titled Transparent and Informative. Really appreciate the explanations without presenting himself as a former subject matter expert. Yep, I am certainly not a subject matter expert. It makes the show very accessible to have someone who is learning right alongside the listener, albeit a few steps ahead. Yeah, it might be a few steps ahead, although I still haven't used a DEX yet, a decentralized exchange. So I'm still waiting out for what is coming out on Cardano so I can actually finally use a decentralized exchange without paying those exorbitant fees that you might expect. Now here's another one. Educational and relaxed. I really enjoy the delivery and the thorough information from all aspects of the Cardano ecosystem. Thanks for the awesome information. And you're welcome. It's absolutely my pleasure. Like the previous review said, I do a lot of research. I am still learning myself, and I gather as much information as possible every single week, cram it into my head, and produce podcast episodes out of it. So that's my process. That's how I build things, and I've got a little schedule that is tallied up, or not tallied up, or scheduled up before every month. and just go through all the content that way. So it's a learning process for everyone, and it's all on trend. So it's hopefully stays very informative and very relevant for everyone. Okay, so that's it for this episode. I've got a conference to organize, so I got to get to it. Now, like I say always, please keep your seed phrases safe and secure, and stay palm.
Yeah, gotta do it like that. You've been listening to the Learn Cardano podcast. Gotta get it hype. Crypto is what we like, but this is not investment or financial advice. Gotta do your research, cause it's risky. We know it is. This show is educational and it's informative. Crypto's the future, really, it ain't no debating. IOHK, Emergo, we're not affiliated, not Cardano Foundation. We just gotta say it. A show that you can learn, and it's for your entertainment. Yeah, you gotta check it. Don't wanna be missing that. You were tuned in to the Learn Cardano podcast. Yeah, giving insight. Ain't another show like this when it come to crypto. Invest at your own risk. Might not be for everyone, but who it is for, we keep giving you some info and plenty more. Hey, yeah, the Learn Cardano podcast. Hey, yeah, the Learn Cardano podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Keep it locked right here. Let's go.